Live from Lincoln and broadcasting across the state of Nebraska, it's the Average Joe Sports Show. This is the place for Husker sports with the biggest names, the best interviews, and all the inside scoops.
I got a front row seat with a big tub of buttered popcorn and a greasy half-live chicken leg.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Thursday is here with the Average Joe Sports Show. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hope you're doing okay. We'll get our starting five shout-outs in the stream. Check out YouTube and subscribe to the Average Joe Sports Show. Find us on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. Give that a follow. Can find Elijah at Herbal Essence at Schmidt_radio for me. And can dial up 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. How many pictures of Matt Rule as the Pope have you seen on social media today? There's been a lot of reaction. The Chicago Pope, Elijah. You'll see different pictures of the newly elected Robert Francis Prevost, 69, selected as the 267th leader of the Catholic Church. Good on him, man, a Chicago guy. And we'll dive into some football, I promise.
And for a long time, people have said, hey, Nebraska's never going to be back in the national landscape. They're never going to win a national title. Well, they also said there's never going to be an American Pope. And look at us today.
Okay, so you're optimistic. More reasons for optimism in 2025.
That's how I'm spinning this one.
Okay, I love it. We'll check in with Brandon Vogel from Counter Read here in about 15 minutes. He has already dug into the offseason as he takes a gander at Nebraska's September. We'll talk with Vogues coming up about that in hour two. Gary Barnett will join us, Hall of Fame coach with Colorado and Northwestern. We'll talk some Big Red with him. And old friend of the firm, excited to have Mike Schaefer with us today from Husker 24/7 Sports. Schaefer will check in around 5:25. You have the numbers to get in. We'll get our shout-outs going. And a lot to dive into. So saw this on Twitter. I don't believe I can utter the name of the Husker Twitter account, the fan account, just because of some of its language. But
if you're on Twitter, it's a Husker account that is known for being satirical.
Yes.
And posting very untrue stories that are sometimes, I'd even go as far as to say, usually funny.
They're great. I believe we've retweeted them. If not, we need to.
Part of the male anatomy.
Yes. So that's the best we can do to shout you out without getting called into the principal's office. That being said, their picture of Memorial Stadium, the East Stadium, was there, and they referenced the fact that, listen, there was white smoke coming out of Memorial Stadium, and that must mean it indicates, per this Twitter account, that Busch Light is the official beer of Husker football. Black smoke means another one-score loss. I don't know, but pretty interesting day on the world stage.
I wouldn't hate Busch Light. I don't know, though. I feel like you could do better.
Well, but I mean, people like what you like.
And Busch Light is...
Blue Yummies are pretty tasty.
I think Busch Light is the lowest common denominator. I don't think I've ever met somebody who hates Busch Light.
No.
I found a lot of people who are they're fine with Busch Light, never any Busch Light haters. So if you're serving to the lowest common denominator, that'd probably work.
It's a beer for everybody.
Sure, it's kind of watery, but...
Well, what would you choose?
Natty Light.
Oh. Seriously?
No.
I was going to say, what are you picking? I mean, I'd probably go Miller Lite myself if I'm going domestic. If I'm going craft, I'm sure there's something from the good folks at Kincaid or Zipline or 100 of the other breweries around the state.
If I'm going domestic, I'm going Coors.
Okay, you know, Coors Light.
Coors Light, Coors Banquet. Just give me the full lineup of Coors beers.
We know where Schaefer would pick. He's a banquet beer fan, and that's okay.
Connor brings up a good point here. What if it's Busch Apple? It is red.
Can't do it.
Bud Heavy also red, but the side note is Bud Light is blue.
Bud Heavy would be incredible.
That's the only beer you could get in there because it's red.
Well, it's just the diesel works. The diesel works. So we'll dive into some Nebraska football thoughts for sure. And Nebraska pretty hot and heavy on the recruiting trail as well. Husker softball getting another mercy rule beat down. Penn State got lit up today. Jordy Ball continues to be your player of the year. You have no news on the settlement with the NCAA in the O'Bannon case. That got kicked down the road a little bit longer, 2 more weeks away from potential settlement. But I think the happy medium here is to allow folks that are on a roster to stay on a roster. But right now, if you're Matt Rule, you've got about 10 to 15 guys that are in limbo. The good thing about Matt Rule and company is they're able to roll with the punches, and they've got a plan of action, it seems to think. So whether it goes or it stays the current way it is, you got to cut down to 105. Nebraska's already mapped and planned that out. I'm interested too this summer when we talk court cases. This is a different kind of case, but it's Sharon Moore in front of the Committee on Infractions. It's Michigan football facing the music, and it could get pretty ugly for them. And on the cheating standpoint, you know, as a football fan, as a sports fan, you just can't and don't take it lightly. People still hammer the Patriots for Spygate. People still hate the Astros for the sign stealing. And Michigan won all their ball games after the Connor Stallions revelation. But still, you ask coaches in and outside the league, it's ticked them off. Not because they didn't think of it first, it's because it's a decided advantage. Does the NCAA go hammer him in Michigan and make an example? Or do you remain toothless? So positioned for success. We'll get into that topic here with Nebraska football. Look at all you have, Elijah, with Nebraska football. You've got a general manager now and Patrick Stewart that's evaluating things and putting a price tag to players. You've got Matt Rule and his response to change with pivoting. You're still a developmental program, but you've been very active in acquiring and upgrading talent. You changed because of what your offense wasn't doing with Dana Holgerson. You brought him in. You've changed with what your special teams wasn't doing, and that's at least maintaining some sort of net zero. You weren't worse than the other special teams, or you certainly weren't better. But a lot of times they were worse, and it cost them ball games and some tight ball games. And again, we talk about change. You've gone to John Butler. You had him along with Phil Snow together for a year, one in the consulting role, one as a secondary coach, planning on the day that Tony White left for Florida State. So there's been a ton of change, but Nebraska's had a plan for when things would shift. If X happens, here's why, here's the response.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the Catholic Church with the Pope. Yeah.
The votes?
Yeah. You got to have that plan in place. They were quick today. People were
it is a little surprising.
They were forecasting maybe a longer conclave with all the Cardinals there. They had a plan in place. They were ready to go. Only 4 votes in, right?
Yeah.
Which, one thing, side note here, we don't know. We know that he went to Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know who his college football team is? He's apparently a Cubs fan from the south side of Chicago.
Well, yeah.
Is he going to be giving any blessings to Northwestern football? I mean, that'd be a shocker if the
They
Pope
kind of need it.
They do need it, but like I'd be real surprised if the Pope was a Northwestern fan.
Dude, the Pope's a Notre Dame guy. Southside Chicago dude. That screams Pat Fitzgerald, I know, in Northwestern. But the Pope, every Pope's a Notre Dame fan.
I wouldn't say every Pope.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
I guarantee you.
I'd venture to say most Popes don't like or appreciate the game of football.
Oh.
But now we got an American Pope.
You got an American Pope that is a Southside Chicago dude. He's a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, it probably makes a lot
He's
of
an
sense,
absolute.
unfortunately.
He's got a Chris Zorich jersey underneath the robe.
think there's going to be watch parties in the Vatican if Notre Dame
that
makes
would
the
be
college
hilarious
football playoff?
if the Irish get back to the national championship game. Is there a watch party with the time difference?
Cardinals all show up. Get their foam fingers on.
That'd be all right. That'd be all right. I'm Diet Catholic. We're Lutheran, Missouri Synod.
Diet Catholic.
Well, you know,
Martin Luther kind of screwed that one up.
Yeah, he did. He got he went to the portal.
he posted his portal notice on the walls.
He did 95 of them. That's pretty good.
You think any players show up to their coach's office, list of 95 reasons they're entering the portal?
No, I don't believe so. I do not believe so. Let's hit the portal. Let's dive into our starting five. We have the part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Jeff Snitley in. Mr. Snitley, good to have you. Justin is here. Brian checks in. Says USA News. Top worst college football coaching hires. Number 7, Mike Riley. Number 13, Scott Frost. No honorable mention, leaving out Callahan. Never underestimate the ability of things to mess things up.
And this was worst coaching hires in the last decade. So
dating back that story was out there. And
Les Miles came in at number 2, and number 1 was the guy at Arkansas they replaced Les Miles with.
Les Miles wasn't at Arkansas.
Sorry, not Les Miles. Bielema.
Okay, well.
Chad Morris.
Okay, the SMU coordinator.
Yeah.
Actually, he was a Clemson offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that didn't happen. Bielema just couldn't get the corner turned there at Pig Suey Land, and he got paid. That's why he left Wisconsin. But coming in at number 2, though, you said was who?
Les Miles at Kansas.
Les Miles, man, he just wanted I was told this. Les wanted to just hit that 60% win percentage at Kansas and then step away, even if it was middle of the season. He just wanted to be able to qualify for the College Football Hall of Fame. He wanted a gig. That gig was supposed to happen. Don't kid yourself. KU's all sorts of happy.
Well, he got close to that 60% mark with his 3-18 record.
No, he whiffed and he didn't care, and it was evident. But they got Lance Leipold, who's awesome. Lance is a heck of a football coach, and KU's doing all right. Things to the tune of a stadium renovation. More of our starting five. Uncle Larry is in. NASCAR Eric, check it in. How are you? Arlo is here. The other Dave says, what's up? Brad is here. Says, hey, go Big Red softball. I think they got UCLA tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that'd be wild, man, if Nebraska can host a regional and then find their way to Oklahoma City. It's been too long since the Big Red have rock and rolled down in Oklahoma City, the Peaches James era, but Nebraska's got a squad to do it. Now,
they did it once with, I think it was the first of the Edwards sisters. I think they made it down.
Did they? I mean, I was doing the games back in 2002. I got sent on that road trip by Mr. Dolman. It was a good time. It was awesome.
I want to say they made it once in like 2013.
It was Iowa. It was the Big 12 tournament in Oklahoma City. Then it was Iowa City for the regional, and then that regional win for Coach Ravel and company got them to Oklahoma City again for the Women's College World Series. Jenny Finch was a senior at Arizona. I think Gary Carter's daughter was playing for Florida State. Florida State nipped to Nebraska. And then I think it might have been Washington or not Fresno. Might have been Cal. Who got Nebraska.
Look at us. We got the last 2 appearances, 2002 and 2013.
Okay.
We nailed both of them.
Thank you. You have Tim in from Idaho. Good to have you, dude. Thank you. Ryan is here. Kobe checking in. Ronnie is back. Cotter Clark, again, nominating Bush Apple if there is to have white smoke out of Memorial Stadium for the stadium beer. We want your input on that. Steve checking in from Omaha with a cold IPA. I love it.
That's how the game's going.
That is. Duck wants Bud Heaven. And that works out well. All right. level of intrigue right now, and we'll get into this with Brandon Vogel, when it comes to Cincinnati. Pretty pivotal moment, clearly, with Arrowhead. It's neutral site. It's a team that's returning a ton of production. Vogues is going to tell us more about, but it's a chance to really ramp up what could be a big-time season for Nebraska. On the recruiting front, we'll hit that with Schaefer. Nebraska's doing a great job, not only with what they have in Trey Taylor and his peer recruitment outreach, but Nebraska's been hot and heavy on the road with stopping by different programs. Phil Simpson being down in Florida. You've got Barthel checking in Kansas City today with DeZephyr is the kid's first name, running back out of the Kansas City area. Nebraska's going up again. DeZephyr Walker is a big-time target. Nebraska has about 3 or 4 offensive tackles they're searching for. Brian asks, will tomato juice be available for red beers? I believe it should be mandatory, Brian. Red beers, always a good thing. Just try it, even if you hate tomato juice. You'll like it. Brandon Vogel coming up, Thursday edition here with the Average Joe Sports Show.
If you've got trash, it's time to stop trash talking and clean up with MWC Can. MWC Can is your one-stop container shop for front load, rear load, side load, and self-dumping containers. Come to MWC Can in Lincoln off North 56th Street and Russell Drive to see their full line of steel and poly containers for any trash need. MWC Can. Let them help you take out the trash the right way. Visit MWC-can.com today.
At Legacy Retirement Communities, we understand that caregiving isn't just a job, it's a calling. It's a passion to serve, to make a difference, and to enrich the lives of others in a meaningful way. As an LPN at Legacy, you'll be part of a compassionate, dedicated team where your skills are not just recognized, they're valued. Your growth is encouraged, and your purpose is at the heart of everything we do. We understand that caregiving can be challenging, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we provide competitive pay, flexible schedules, and opportunities for advancement. Because when you choose to care for others, we're committed to caring for you. Join the Legacy family today and be a part of a community that values the impact you make every day. Apply now at careers.legacyretirement.com or call 402-417-7292. Legacy Retirement Communities. Your calling, our commitment.
I got crabs, and it's real bad.
Rodney Carrington.
Not the kind you eat at Joe's, but the kind that make your girlfriend mad.
Saturday, May 10th at the Rococo Theater. Get tickets at RococoTheater.com. Produced by Outback presents Rodney Carrington.
If you ain't got any teeth, you're not allowed to hang out with people with teeth. Because people with teeth, quite frankly, can't take you serious. The whole time you're talking, all you think about is, what happened to your damn teeth?
Lies.
When it's time to say goodbye, every life deserves to be honored in a way that's as unique as the person we're remembering. I'm Leslie Hull, Creative Director at Roper & Sons Funeral Home. I'm here to help you celebrate your loved one's life in a way that feels personal and meaningful. With kindness and guidance, I'll walk you through every step, making sure their farewell is as special as the memories you hold dear. Roper & Sons, honoring a good life, supporting families.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to Oak Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping.
We're back with more. It's the Average Joe Sports Show with Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you here on the Average Joe Sports Show, Thursday edition. Like and subscribe, YouTube, 7 days a week for you, 4 to 6, of course, Monday through Friday on the Average Joe Sports Show Network, AJ Sports Radio, On Twitter, Brandon Vogel with us from Counter Read, counterread.com. Vogues, you're hunkered down. You are in preview mode, my friend, as the column this morning. Just excellent as all, bud. We got to ask you, as if white smoke were to appear from Memorial Stadium, indicating what as the beer of Husker football?
A beer of Husker football?
The beer, right? Okay, the beer has been chosen. What beer is it that should be chosen?
Oh, that's a tough one. In terms of brands, I might cheap out and go with the red beer. Like for me, that's like kind of signature Nebraskan. It matches color wise, so I guess you can choose whatever beer you want, as long as you're adding the tomato juice to it. I'm not a red beer guy, but I can look at it and say, like, yeah, that's pretty Nebraska. So I think that might be my official one, and I'll leave it up to you guys to decide who gets the title sponsorship as the beer company of choice.
Somebody out there's got to make a red ale, like an Irish red ale.
Well, Killian's always was kind of deemed that.
So I'm not sure that would be the biggest like.
I know, but
teaser.
I'm just saying that there is one that is in existence. But I mean, a Busch Light, a Bud Light, a Bud Heavy, whatever you want to go with, Coors Light, Miller Light. I mean, the domestics. You've got your tap spots, presumably, hopefully reserved for an array of your local breweries that have thrived for years, from Omaha, from Lincoln, from Central Nebraska, the Kincaid Boys, and of course out west. So it's you've got a choice, man. It's a good problem to have. It's kind of like the running back room in 1995.
That was a real good problem to have, and Nebraska does have that quote unquote problem in terms of what's the rotation going to be at Memorial Stadium.
So Matthew chimes in. Thunderhead makes an excellent Irish red. There we go. Salt Mine City and the Haymarket, really good Daddy Boy Irish red. So we're getting all sorts of suggestions.
Stick with me here. How about the Red Four Loco?
The what now?
Red Four Loco.
Okay.
Have that. It's not technically a beer, but depending on how the game's going, I think Husker fans can get behind that. Are you familiar with Four Loco, Schmitty?
No.
It's
old man here. Enlighten me, both of you.
Well, I was going to say we were fortunate, Schmitty, because I think we were not the target demo for this, and the formula has since been changed. You can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Elijah, but used to be a really potent alcoholic energy drink that
really potent
was so potent that they had to change it.
Really?
Yeah. Think like 24-ounce vodka Red Bull in a can, but more caffeine and more booze.
Really?
Yeah.
Just absolute blackout juice.
It was because of Four Loko, the federal government stepped in and outlawed selling in cans drinks that included both caffeine and alcohol. It was
lots of problems.
It was something, lots of problems.
Vogues, let's get into your story a little bit, and you take a look at the first four. And I love how you put it out there. You've got a chance in Arrowhead for sure to learn a lot about Nebraska football. And there were signs year one in Matt Rule and his squad, the first couple with Minnesota and Colorado, that you had a problem at quarterback. And that was very telling. There were also signs about what the team could be, but could they put a whole game together, i.e. the first half of Colorado? And they're really good. They're rolling, the offense, defense playing well. It was a team that could have knocked on more than 7, but they didn't put a lot of games together. Cincinnati's not a pushover. The more I read your work, the more they're probably going to be a pain in the neck first ball game. It's a dangerous ball game.
Yeah, I think it is. That's kind of, back in January when I started looking at like, okay, well, what are these teams bringing back? you start with Nebraska, and then I start going through the teams on Nebraska's schedule. I was like, Cincinnati, they're just kind of middle of the road. They need a winning season in year 3 under Scott Satterfield. And as I started to look at the roster, like they were able to, they had some losses, particularly at wide receiver in the transfer portal, but that's a spot where you can do pretty well bringing in your own transfers. Have a returning quarterback. They have Joe Royer, who might be one of the best tight ends in the country. And they're a team that last year was sitting at, what was it? 5-2, and lost their last 5. And they had one of the best rushing attacks in the country. Lost their top rusher, but brought in Wisconsin's top rusher via the portal. So when you look at this, they're an experienced team. They're a team that wants to be like really physical, kind of Big Ten style, run the ball. Should be pretty good on the front 7. Like those are some tough outs when you think about kind of a game 1 opponent, where things can get squirrely, and the expectation is for them to get a little bit squirrely because nobody's played a game yet. But here's Cincinnati, pretty experienced and pretty good, I think, at the basics.
Does Cincinnati maintain any of that framework, any of that foundation that they had from the Luke Fickell era? Because we talked, I think it was yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. It was 2 days ago about how Luke Fickell went up and really ripped up all the foundation of Wisconsin, trying to turn that program around. Was the foundation ripped up post Fickell at Cincinnati, or does that same foundation still apply?
I think the foundation's been mostly ripped up, and it might not even be by intent, but Luke Fickell built Cincinnati into what they were under him in the AAC, and then it coincided with a move to the Big 12 and a coaching change. So I think for the most part, even though like they're kind of running that same playbook, and Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback, was a Fickell quarterback as well. And they're trying to run the football and play good defense. So like the blueprint's there, but I think in terms of what's residual from those good Fickell years, I don't know that there's a ton left after 2 straight losing seasons.
You do have Dante Corleone at defensive tackle. He's a dude, could be an All-American, and he has decided to stick there in the Queen City and not go get paid. Good on him for being a stand-up guy. You mentioned Walker, the Wisconsin running back transfer, and the dual threat nature of Sorsby, and just what Cincinnati has in that front 7. So with a new coordinator, new full-time pieces, and a transitional front for Nebraska, you're going to have a chance to know early on against a team that wants to run it just how well Nebraska can be stopping the run, not against a Big Ten team, but against a team that wants to move the chains that way.
Yeah, I mean, like this Cincinnati team and the way they want to play would fit right in kind of like the middle of the Big Ten, and not just geographically, and that's kind of one of my questions that I had going into the spring, and it'll be a question all off season. Like, I think Nebraska has a chance to be pretty good defensively, but the past 2 years, they were dominant at times and pretty much really strong across the board against the run. Can they do that again? Missing a couple of big pieces on the interior. You lost 3 edge rushers who were playing for you, and you've got some turnover at linebacker. So are they going to be able to stop the run at the same level they have in the past? Cincinnati is a sort of team that will want to put that to the test right away.
Brandon Vogel with us here, and Brandon, it's funny because we've been having this entire discussion here, and I was sitting back thinking, I was like, man, I don't think I'm going into this Cincinnati game knowing any names. Like, I knew that they had a good tight end. I knew they had that interior run stuff, or maybe it's because we're so far away, but is this a game that you think Husker fans could be overlooking in terms of difficulty, knowing the fact that, like, I look at the Cincinnati team and I go, yeah, they got some dudes, but I don't know any of their names.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I certainly felt like I kind of overlooked it initially. So that's been my own experience. And that coaching transition was weird. Like Luke Fickell leaves for Wisconsin, and Satterfield jumps over from Louisville. And I think Louisville was pretty happy that was the case.
You're absolutely thrilled to have Brom.
They got Jeff Brom out of the deal, and he's had 2 strong early seasons there. So it's all of those things. Plus, I think the transition to the Big 12. I mean, but the Cincinnati team to get to that 5-2 record that they're at beat Arizona State. And we saw what Arizona State went on and did, and it's because I think they collapsed over the back half of the season that makes them probably a little bit undervalued.
Vogues, I want to get into this with you real quick, and we'll do a little overtime with it. But how do you think Nebraska's closer to just being a 7 or 8 win team as you kind of gauge what's on the roster, or are they truly threatening that 9 or better? Because just with the feedback we get in the stream, email, the listeners are there's a heavy number in the camp that think 9 or better is not just possible, but really likely to happen, or it should happen.
Yeah, I think 7, between 7 and 8, maybe shading a little bit towards 8 is probably what they are. When you look at the schedule, and this is what the off season's for, is like everything's going to go to like get as close to its ceiling as it can. Like, I don't think 9 to 10 is off the table by any means. That's kind of what I started doing today with the first 4 games, and we'll continue over the next couple of newsletters. Looking at that by kind of those 4 game chunks, which I think is kind of what you're looking at. Like, okay, what are your chances of like getting through this at 3-1? Because if you go 3-1 3 times, well, you end up at 9-3. That said, it's you can find ways to pencil it out, but it's a matter of actually going out and doing it. And for Nebraska, like, the roster's good. Like, I feel good about the roster. It's just they haven't been that team that has kind of played to the level of their roster consistently enough.
Brandon Vogel with us. Some overtime with Brandon Vogel here on a Thursday with the Average Joe Sports Show. You can find Brandon on Twitter at Brandon L. Vogel. Cow to read. Vogues, hang tight. We'll chew on some more football here on a Thursday.
You decide to buy new flooring, you want it installed right away. Hi, Steve Carper from O Street Carpet. With our huge in-stock supply of carpet, tile, and vinyl, wood, and laminate flooring. You buy today and we'll install it right away. While other stores don't deliver that kind of service, we do. In fact, if you'd have purchased your flooring last week at O Street, you'd be enjoying it today.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street and ostreetcarpet.com.
It's not often a man wakes up and says, I feel the best I have in years. We hear this all the time at Limitless Mail, and it can happen to you when you go to Limitless Mail and get a blood test to see what your body is missing. That's how simple it is. Schedule a free consult with Limitless Mail. Discuss your symptoms. Do the blood test. If your lab results say you're low in testosterone, we can fix that. Age is just a number. You can feel your best again. Just ask Limitless Mail.
Storm damage may be the last thing you want to deal with and the last thing you need when money is tight. Hi, this is Matt Berkey, co-owner of Golden Rule Contractors. Our business has been built on the commitment, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Golden Rule Contractors will do our very best to keep costs down while still giving you a beautiful new roof without all the mess. Give us a call at 402-473-2975 or online at grclincoln.com. We'll treat your home as if it were our own.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Hi, I'm Justin Wozni, funeral director at Roper & Sons. When families come to us, it's often during one of the most difficult times of their lives. My role is to be there, listening, guiding, and helping you make decisions that feel right for you and your loved one. Whether it's planning a meaningful service or simply having someone to talk to, our funeral directors are here to support you every step.
We're back with more. It's the Average Joe Sports Show with Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you on the Thursday edition of the Average Joe Sports Show. Some overtime with Brandon Vogel. We'll get some comments from Ken and Game Dog and Kobe coming up here. Vogues, I wanted to ask you about that 8 or better possibility with Nebraska football, and what unit do you think is going to be most responsible if you're better than what you did last year at 7-6? Will it be the offense? Do you think the defense, or do you think the special teams? The answer is yes, all three. Nebraska is truly to have a breakthrough, but what unit specifically in your mind has to shine?
It's a tough one, and it's always a kind of a sliding scale. But I think the biggest one, like if you could lock in right now, like the offense is going to be, whatever you term significant. I'd say about 10 points a game, 10 points per game improved. Like I think that's how Nebraska gets there. Now you can't have a big fall off from the defense, of course, and special teams, can I think add to that on both sides, or it could detract, which has been the case for special teams for a while at Nebraska. So as long as you get like even if you got special teams that were kind of like a net neutral or a net zero on a national scale, like that would be improvement. So I think it's mostly up to the offense, but you can't pair a bunch of improvement offensively, but if you pair it with a kind of regression defensively. So that's the big thing.
Have we talked about special teams enough this spring? Will we talk about it enough this summer and fall? It feels like the thing that, like, man, for years now you've wanted to rip your hair out, and every single summer you convince yourself, well, it can't get worse, right?
Yeah, you convince yourself of that, and then Nebraska has convinced you otherwise. Not that it's gotten worse, but it just hasn't gotten significantly better. And I mean, I think this is a legitimate like growth opportunity for the Huskers. You're talking about 10 or 15 better plays over the course of the season could really have a big impact. It's a small sample size sort of thing. It's tough. Have we talked about it enough? It's just, I find it kind of hard to talk about at this point. They don't have the rugby punter they want yet. You've got kickers who haven't been quite up to what anyone had hoped in either years. You hope the long snapper issue's been fixed, which isn't that hard of a fix, presumably. But really, like, the person to talk to is about Mike Eckler, and yeah, we can look at the numbers. Done that at Counter Read, and you guys have done it on shows. But beyond that, it's still kind of like believe it when you see it.
Vogues, I want to end with Nick Saban. Does he help fix college football, or what's your reaction to this presidential council that's moving forward?
Yeah, he's certainly trying, which I guess, for a guy as competitive as that, when you're quote unquote retired, you'll look for ways to kind of keep those competitive juices flowing. Like, I don't know. I'd be surprised if this ends up providing the fix for college football. It's just a tough sport to wrangle. And until I think the conferences decide that they're stronger together than apart, which is not the case now and really has never been the case in college football. There's going to be a lot of attempts. There's going to be a lot of counter attempts. But until they come together and try to work and bargain as a unit, I don't think we're going to see a ton of meaningful change in the near future.
You don't want to go down the road of collective bargaining if you're a university because of how expensive it is. And then what do? Do you whack 100 sports? Do you have those former sports turn into club sports that you still go support when you have your revenue generators that can stay afloat and make money? Nebraska's very unique in the fact that they've got 3 to 4 that earn money and one prints money still, despite not being at a championship level that can pay for everything else. But it's not the case at a lot of spots.
Yeah, it's not. And, it's, it might seem like a strange thing to say given like how rapidly things have changed and how I think, a lot of people kind of look at the current where we're at right now and be like, well, this isn't it. And I would agree, this isn't it. But it might be one of those things where like, let's get to a revenue share era, assuming that is coming, which looks likely based on events this week. And let's see what that does. Because otherwise, yeah, you're talking about a future where like, hey, if everything's just based on profitability, like there's not a whole lot of stuff left. And that's a lot of opportunities lost for student athletes.
Brandon Vogel with us here. And Brandon, I also want to get your thoughts. Seems like 105 not going to be the number grandfathered in with those older players. In terms of what that means for Nebraska over the next couple months, what are your thoughts? There were a couple guys that entered the portal with an impending 105. Now it seems like that's not going to happen. That was the other big news yesterday, in addition to the presidential committee that may or may not be coming.
Yeah, I would guess for Nebraska that it probably means that where the roster's at right now, between 120 and 130, it's probably where it stays. There are going to be some schools out there that probably won't do that. That will probably say, hey, we were almost at 105. That's where we're going to stay. But I think for Nebraska, you could still use that because basically whoever's on that list is good to go until they decide to stop playing college athletics or run out of eligibility. So maybe you can milk a little advantage out of that for the next 2 to 3 years. And then after that, it's, everybody's at 105 and on a level playing field from that perspective.
Vogues, what's coming up here with Counter Read, Ben? How can folks subscribe? Tell us what you and Aaron Sorensen are up to.
Yeah, you can head to counterread.com and get signed up. Do 4 newsletters a week. 2 of those are for free subscribers and 2 are for our paid subscribers. So you can get a chance to check us out and see what we're doing there. We talked about, I started going through the schedule for the first 4 games. I'll have the next 4 games coming up next week. Erin has her Friday 5, which is always a good kind of weekly recap going up first thing tomorrow morning. So head over to Counter Read, get signed up, and give us a look.
All right, Vogues, appreciate you, bud. We'll holler Saturday morning.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
There he is, Brandon Vogel with us here from Counter Read, counterread.com. Good to be with you on the Average Joe Sports Show. Game Dog chiming in, says special teams. You look at what happened against Illinois and for sure Iowa. Ding, ding, ding. Black Hills Brennan inviting us to the Black Hills of wonderful spearfish, saying the golf course up there is prime. I love actually hitting out of the rough up there, but it's buffalo grass.
Okay.
So it's awesome.
You might be alone in that one.
Well, I mean, if you've got a pick, don't hit out of the rough. But the reality is, yes, it will. Steve saying, look, national champ Kool-Aid from Hastings. Steve's fired up. There we go. And we'll wind down this first hour. Gary Barnett, 15 minutes away, get his take on making that jump. And also a sit-down Mike Schaefer with us from Husker 24/7 next hour. Maybe a Danny Burke sighting as well. Good to be with you. Like and subscribe on YouTube. The Average Joe Sports Show. We'll wind down hour 1 here in a moment.
Yesterday, your water heater worked just fine. Today, surprise! When you're out of hot water, just call the plumbers at Bryant. In most cases, you can get same-day water heater replacement. What you won't get is a costly surprise with the bill. At Bryant, the price you're quoted is the price you'll pay. No last-minute extras for piping or ventilation alterations. Need a new water heater? Just call Bryant, 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Good afternoon from the 1011 Newsroom. I'm Cole Miller. Coming up, white smoke rises from the Sistine Chapel. A new pope has been selected. We've got reaction from the Lincoln Diocese to the first American to lead the Catholic Church. Plus, a bus driver with Norris is out of a job, accused of being drunk behind the wheel. And the governor honors a World War II veteran. We're there for that celebration. These stories and much more tonight.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Make hauling easy with the MWC Park Can Easy Dump. This satellite dumper goes where big garbage trucks can't and can haul everything from trash to yard waste to recycling. The fully automatic Easy Dump fits in the back of a standard pickup truck, so there's no need for a CDL license. Perfect for alleys, gated communities, condos, parks, anywhere. Come see the Easy Dump yourself at MWC Can in Lincoln, or go to MWC-can.com today.
Hi, David Brooks here, president and founder of Retire Smart, inviting you to join me and Chip Maxwell every Saturday morning at 7 or Sunday mornings at 6 for the Retire Smart radio show. We'll provide you answers to your most pressing retirement questions and help you navigate ever uncertain financial times. Don't just retire, retire smart. That's Saturday mornings at 7 or Sunday mornings at 6.
Investment advisory services offered through Smart Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor.
When you're outdoors beneath Nebraska skies, adventure comes in all sizes. From quick escapes and long weekends to true off-the-grid retreats. Paddle, hike, camp, explore. Whether you have a few hours or a few days, we'll guide you to a state park or recreation area that's a perfect fit. Start your next adventure today.
We're back with more. It's the Average Joe Sports Show with Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
SAS 1 says Nebraska needs to get back to being Pancake U. Yeah, you load up on the lines of scrimmage and crush people. It bodes well for sure. Totally agree. Tiger Shark weighs in and says Ross Perot is Nick Saban's middle name. Nick Ross Perot Saban.
Don't think that's true.
I don't think so either. I don't know that he's going to be able to get things back to the way they were, where
we're past that point.
I know, but I think he wants it to go back to the way it was. And there needs to be a happy medium with the players and their level of control compared to the adults and the coaches. There's also the aspect of compensation, and then you have the NCAA that's the mud on the rims, so to speak, that just screws stuff up because of their lack of enforcement ability. So it's convoluted. It's a mess, and it drove him out. It drove him out of coaching, and whether that's good or bad with you as a football fan, so be it. And he doesn't like the fact that he didn't have the power to say and do and make rules or run it the way he wanted it run. I mean, the power shifted, and that's something that I don't think he wants to be done coaching. He just didn't like what he was dealing with folks hitting him up for raises all the time.
He's going to become like governor of Alabama or something, isn't he?
I think he has too much. I think he's too good on game day to give that up and then go run a state, to be honest. If he does anything,
House of Representatives.
if he does anything, he'd go back to West Virginia and run that.
I just think it'd be fun to have Nick Saban on a House Oversight Committee, grilling people.
Well, he would, behind the closed doors, locker room, Nick Saban, where it's Joe Pesci F-bomb tribute, and then all of a sudden it turns into take a knee for the Lord's Prayer. That shift, that has happened, I have been told, where he's losing his mind, swearing out of his mind, and then, all right, take a knee.
Could be a good candidate for Pope then.
Wow, Pope Saban. Look at you. I mean, I know it's a thing, and you're a historical guy, but pretty enthralled with the Pope.
The whole conclave process is fascinating to me. I think it's super interesting.
The votes are burnt. They're silent. They're secretive. The handwriting is secretive itself. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I'll say I'm not Catholic, but I am extremely just intrigued by this whole process and the tradition that it's steeped in. It's all very interesting from both a historical perspective and like a relevancy to the modern world. I think it's very interesting.
Red wine 65. At least the Pope doesn't owe back pay.
Let me ask you
Obama, excuse me.
Maybe this is something.
I screwed that up.
Yeah, you did screw that up bad. That's slander now. Libels.
Listen, I'm not piling on anyone.
But do I go? If I'm going thematic with dinner tonight, do I go Chicago or do I go Italian?
You do both.
Seems like a lot of calories.
You do Italian beef.
You gotta let that. That's a long process. I gotta find somewhere in town that does Italian beef.
All right. We'll check in down in Scottsdale. Say hey with Gary Barnett. Get his take on college football, the Big Red in year 3, and also Mike Schaefer. Hour 2 coming up here with the Average Joe Sports Show.
Attention! Acres is cutting interest rates and offering great deals below market value on the largest selection of used inventory in the nation. For a limited time, Acres is offering interest rates as low as 2.9% on our late model John Deere ag equipment. Acres low interest rates, along with our below market prices on select John Deere used planters, tractors, sprayers, and combines, makes it a great time to upgrade your equipment for the 2025 season. Visit acres.com for details. That's AKRS.com. Offer ends May 31st, 2025. Subject to proof financing. Offer may change at any time without notice.
Hey, it's Schmitty here. And if you're like me, your calendar's filling up with spring celebrations, graduations, get-togethers, and if you're lucky, tea times. All this stuff takes energy. And as us guys get older, sometimes we're a bit low on that. I struggled with extra weight, causing lower energy for years, until I found Lincoln Weight Loss. Now, after completing the Lincoln Weight Loss program and resetting my metabolism, I have so much energy. I feel lighter, healthier, and I can't wait to take on whatever the day brings. Take the first step and check out Lincoln Weight Loss and get your free body composition analysis. From there, you can look forward to very quick results, shedding unwanted extra weight, and then you can get back to enjoying yard work, followed by grilling, and then relaxing on the patio. With Lincoln Weight Loss, there's no injections, no prepackaged meals, no calorie counting, just a framework you can follow. Schedule your free consultation today at LincolnWeightLoss.com or call 402-520-8170.
It's Jill St. James for Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Are you planning to replace your worn out, ugly windows? I hated mine. They made my whole home look old and uncared for, but not anymore. My new vinyl replacement windows from Heartland of Nebraska Windows make my home look new again. And I know that look will last because they come with a lifetime non-prorated warranty. Get a free estimate today. You can buy more expensive windows from a bigger company, but you can't buy better windows from a better company than Heartland of Nebraska Windows.
Lincoln's local news, talk, sports, and weather station. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, and KFRX HD3, Lincoln.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Pope Leo XIV addressing crowds in St. Peter's Square and around the world after cardinals voted him as the next leader of the Catholic Church. He called for unity and thanked the masses in St. Peter's Square and also thanked Pope Francis.
Grazie a Papa Francesco.
Former Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, born in Chicago and a Villanova grad, was not considered a top contender, now making history as the first American to serve as Pope. ABC News contributor Father James Martin.
He's a wonderful person. I got to know him at the Synod. He's very down to earth. He's kind. He's very humble and very soft-spoken.
His oldest brother, Louis Prevost, lives in Florida, reacting to telling ABC station WWSB in Port Charlotte he used to joke that his little brother could be Pope, but says it's still a surprise.
We used to tease him. You're going to be Pope someday. You're too holy. And, joking, ribbing. And when he went into the seminary, it's like, oh, wow, okay. And then a couple of years ago when the Pope made him a cardinal, it's like, this could happen. Holy cow.
He'll lead his first mass tomorrow. President Trump praising the new U.S. Pope, calling it an honor for the nation. Earlier today, the president announced a trade deal was struck between the U.S. and U.K. The framework, he says, will ensure economic security. ABC's Karen Travers says auto tariffs will be reduced for the U.K.
We used to tease him.
That 10% global tariff that the president put in place on countries all around the world, that stays in place on the UK. That did not change. There will also be decreases in the steel and aluminum tariffs as part of this deal.
It's the first trade deal worked out since U.S. tariffs kicked in. At Columbia University, there is limited access to the campus today after pro-Palestinian students and demonstrators took over Butler Library last night. Police took nearly 80 people into custody. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the administration is reviewing the visa status of those involved. You're listening to ABC News.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-375-8936. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-375-8936. 800-375-8936. 800-375-8936.
Reaction to a new pontiff. Good afternoon. I'm Elijah Herbel, KFOR News. History was made today as the first American was elected to be the new pontiff. Cardinal Robert Prevost of Chicago was chosen and will be known as Pope Leo XIV. Bishop James Conley of the Diocese of Lincoln tells KFOR News he was surprised and thrilled to hear the news. He explained why the Pope considered Leo for a name.
I think he's sending a signal that he's going to be a Pope who's really going to promote the Catholic Church's teaching on social doctrine and peace and justice for the people.
Pope Leo XIV was elected on the fourth vote of the conclave. In other news, deputies arrested a Norris school bus driver on Wednesday after she allegedly drove drunk on her bus route. According to Lancaster County Chief Deputy Sheriff Ben Houchin, 67-year-old Betty Johnson of Hickman did drive the morning and noon bus routes on Wednesday, but wasn't allowed to drive the afternoon bus. Houchin adds Johnson admitted to drinking before her midday run and between her noon and after-school shift.
During her noon bus route, she didn't sound correct on the bus radio, and then they made contact with her when she returned for her after-school one.
Johnson's preliminary breath test was a .22, nearly 3 times above the legal limit. She was arrested Wednesday afternoon for driving under the influence and felony child abuse. To beat extreme heat this summer, the City of Lincoln and the Health Department has come up with a heat response plan for those trying to escape the hot weather. Health Director Carrie Kernan says they have collaborated with the National Weather Service, cultural organizations, and community centers to lay out a plan. Cooling centers are available at rec centers, libraries, and aging partner facilities during regular hours. Kernan says each of these locations will have a limited amount of heat relief kits.
Kits may include items such as reusable water bottles, sunscreen, electrolyte packets, and more.
You can read more about the plan at KFORnow.com. Sunny and warm in the capital city on a Thursday, a high of 78 degrees. For KFOR News, this is Elijah Herbel.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10, $20, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-894-7722.
Live from Lincoln and broadcasting across the state of Nebraska, it's the Average Joe Sports Show. This is the place for Husker sports with the biggest names, the best interviews, and all the inside scoops.
I got a front row seat with a big tub of buttered popcorn and a greasy half-live chicken leg.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Hour 2 is the Average Joe Sports Show. We welcome in the Hall of Fame coach with Colorado Northwestern, Gary Barnett, here to talk some college football. Coach, how we doing? Thanks for the time.
Well, doing well, Chris. Absolutely. Lots going on, and it's unsettled in college football and probably going to be for a while. So there's, keeps guys like you and me talking on the radio quite a bit.
Yeah, we love talking college ball. It's way more fun to talk about the matchups and the results than the courtrooms and the commissions, but we got to cover it all, right? And what's your reaction here? And I'm a big Nick Saban guy. I really appreciate Coach Saban. I just know Cody Campbell at Texas Tech made a whole bunch of money, and he's helping the Red Raiders be a player. And those are two names with President Trump's commission on college football here. What's your reaction to it? They're going to try and tap in to fix this runaway train.
Well, it's sort of a mixed bag. I mean, the genie's out of the bottle, and I'm not sure exactly if Nick's trying to put it back in or if his relationship with Trump is trying to do something. But I mean, everybody wants it fixed. The biggest challenge to all this is there's no organization that can fix it. I think for the most part, people will think that President Trump really doesn't have any business. Seems like there's more important things in his world than this. It's really complicated. Biggest challenge to all of it, Chris, is that there's just no guide rails, and there's no one in charge. And to create an organization where somebody's in charge would probably only take care of the upper level of college football. I mean, there's still 80,000 kids that play college football, and we're really dealing with about 3,000 of them, and across the country. And so whatever, all this attention and all this angst and everything else is really based and pointed at just about not even 3% of the population. And so is that warrant all of this? Does that warrant all the angst that everybody's got? I don't know. So it's, it's certainly the tail is wagging the dog at this point in time. And I don't know which way you go with it. I mean, I've said to you many times on this show that to me, the only way out is for there to be some sort of employment status for athletes. And that in itself would curtail a lot of problems. Now, it would create some problems for non-revenue sports, but everything they're doing right now is creating problems for non-revenue sports anyway. And, the portal, the ability to change as often as they want right now, players, it's a completely player controlled situation right now. And, the only way that you can curtail it is for there to be a negotiated player agreement that says that they'll stay so many years and make them employees and collectively bargain an agreement to where both sides will agree to, and there'll be an organization that will, run that. That it'll be then the courts can have something to say. Right now, the courts don't have anything to say about it. But until there's an agreement and a collective bargain agreement, and that means they have to be employees to create that. Until that, the courts can't do anything because there's no entity for them to enforce.
The NCAA is supposed to be in charge. That has sailed. They're trying to settle and limit damages financially. The biggest roadblock in your mind is who and what with the collective bargaining and the employment. I mean, why can't that happen? That seems so simple.
Well, I think it's a really big expense for universities, and it's so expensive that you can't make every athlete an employee. So now you got to pick and choose which sports become employees, and that's pretty simple. It comes down to whether they provide revenue or not.
Right.
Because a collective bargaining agreement means you share the revenue, and by sharing the revenue, you agree to give up some of your rights. If there's no revenue, then you have no bargaining power, and so that immediately goes down to about 3 to 4 to maybe 5 sports, probably most schools 3, where there is revenue and there is something to be shared, and then after that, then there'll be a different set of rules for those who aren't involved in the revenue sharing. The challenge here is there's nobody in charge who can make these calls. How do you do it? Does somebody just all of a sudden decide to do it, one school, and then people fall in place? What happens? But everybody's afraid to, make that first move.
Coach, you have Troy Dannon, Nebraska's athletic director, part of the college football playoff committee, was appointed that direction. What can that do? What does that entail for Nebraska as far as the benefits in your eyes?
Well, I don't think there's any benefits for schools, individual schools who have representatives on that. They just may get the information sooner and maybe a little more directly than they would have hearing it from everybody else. But there's no real benefit for Nebraska or Nebraska fans or Nebraska programs, except that they are represented, and if there's at least somebody that's got a mouth at the table, that if they have a particular specific thing that's specific to Nebraska, at least somebody's going to hear it and represent them. And then you got to hope maybe that it has a little clout to it, but more than likely it just means you get your information faster.
Coach, you've worked with a lot of quarterbacks, and not only as head coach, but as coordinator and quarterback coach. And what is the process like, coach to player, player to coach, to manage expectations? I'm asking about Dylan Raiola, and really kind of muted. There's not a ton of national hype. There's kind of a quiet confidence with Matt Rule and company going into year 3, but there's also caution just because of Nebraska and what they've not done versus what they have been projected to do with past years. What's your message to quarterbacks when it comes to that second year? And I don't know how many freshman quarterbacks you coached or redshirt freshmen, but that year 1 to year 2 jump, how can you help further that along as a coach and also get the best out of your quarterback?
Well, the best thing you said is that it's very quiet, and that's what you want. You don't want everybody scrutinizing constantly what you're doing and throwing out potential questions and issues and second guessing and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. You just want to be able to go about your work, and that young man wants to be better, and he's more than willing to do everything and anything that Coach Rule and his staff thinks he should do. And he's also got a sounding board of as an agent and his family as to where that should be. But the best news is that nobody's doing much with it. Nobody's putting it in the paper every day. It's not a big issue, except maybe in Nebraska. But just to quietly go about getting better, quietly go about becoming a better leader, quietly accumulating skills that you need as you go further. But I think the best thing that you can do as a coach is just say, let's don't listen to the noise. Let's hope there isn't any noise, and let's have the freedom to go about doing our jobs and going about getting better. And let's evaluate ourselves and talk constantly about it. It's the best way to do it is when you can do it in a quiet storm rather than with having to spend half your day talking to media people about the questions they have as to what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and shouldn't you do this and shouldn't you do that. Just to be able to go about your plan quietly and businesslike and in a workmanlike fashion in the confines of your facilities is what you're trying to do.
Just leave me alone and let me get better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Simple enough. Gary Barnett with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show. And Coach, I want to get your take on 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, dare I say 10 wins. How big of a gap is there? And, the off season's here and we're just talking about a whole bunch of stuff and it's fun, but the more feedback I get, there's folks, at least the listeners, the fans out there are, man, they're excited. They're excited for the O-line. They're excited for the quarterback. They're excited for the wide receiver room. They love Dana. They think the defense can be good. I think Nebraska's really done a nice job of talent upgrade with the portal. And so there's a lot of moving parts there as to be optimistic and excited. But what's really that gap to go from a 7-win squad, a team that just got 7, they went to the bowl game at 6-6, to jumping from 7 to 9 or from 7 to 10. Tell me how that happens in a year 3 or sooner rather than later in a football program.
Well, the number one thing is don't assume you're going to be at 7 automatically because you got there once.
Right.
And that's the number one thing. Don't forget how you got to 7 because that was hard to get. And look at the years it took them to get to 7. And don't forget about what it took to get there. And then, to me, you just don't ever want to go back to where you don't get 7. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the approach. You never want to go back there. We've got to do everything we did last year to get there. It's going to be even harder this year. We've got to do more. And the best thing that happens, I think, Chris, is when you don't put a number on where you're trying to get. You just don't ever want to go back to where it was, and you want to make sure of that. And then that means you're working every single day not to go backwards. And when you work every single day not to go backwards and to get better and to make sure you get there again, then all of a sudden you get 8, 9, and 10 because you just acquired this constant flow and this constant want of getting better and never going back. And that's when you hit the jackpot. That's when all of a sudden, at Northwestern, we went 3 straight years, of almost the exact same record. And we didn't want to go back there. And then all of a sudden we ended up in the Rose Bowl the next year because we weren't going back there. And we didn't set a goal for how many we were going to win. We just knew we weren't going back and we were getting better. So I think the big thing is don't set a number.
Well, how frustrating is it? Because, the hardest thing to do is to build, and it's super hard to maintain. And, your years in Evanston, it wasn't just, hey, yeah, you got to the Rose Bowl. You had really good seasons following the Rose Bowl. I mean, you played Peyton in Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl. It wasn't just a kind of a one-shot deal. You built a successful program, and then guys after you sustained it to a level where that program was a bowl team, a threat in the Big Ten, and won a Big Ten again. So you really set the mark. But it's hard, man. Answer me this before we let you go swing the clubs. Are you is the build harder or is the maintenance harder, the maintaining?
That's a good fair question. They're both hard.
Yeah, they are.
The build is exciting. Okay, build's exciting. I mean, you get up every day just trying to put this thing together every single day. And I'll go back to what I was saying earlier about Raiola.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever want to go back there. And that's what the maintenance is.
Mm-hmm.
The maintenance is I don't ever want to go back there. I don't want to be in that situation. You hopefully you've created a culture along the way that helps you. The culture helps you not go back there. And you got to have that as you go to the next step, which I think Coach Rule's doing. Nebraska certainly has had all the things it's needed to have that culture. And I think that's what he's doing. And that culture that you create getting to the 7, that's what gets you to the 10 and the 11.
Gary Barnett with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show. Coach, what's the golf weekend look like?
Well, we're getting ready for the migration back to Colorado, Chris. So it's a mixture of packing cars and loading up and taking care of last minute things and working golf in between. So it's something I get to do between all the stuff we have to do in order to get out of town. So,
well, excited for you and enjoy. Awesome chat, Coach. Appreciate the time.
All right, Chris. Great being with you.
Good stuff from Coach Barnett. Pretty fascinating about that culture word. I know it's thrown out a lot, but put it into great perspective with how you go from one number to another. Mike Schaefer on deck here with the Average Joe Sports Show.
Ready to get more from your checking accounts? Introducing Liberty Plus Checking from Liberty First Credit Union, the account with plus size benefits. Earn up to 5.50% APY on balances up to $40,000. Plus, you choose rewards, redeemable for cash, travel, and more. With relationship pricing on savings and CDs, plus loan rate discounts, Liberty Plus Checking at Liberty First Credit Union is everything you need, plus more. APY terms, rewards, and conditions are variable and can change without notice. Account qualifications and $6.95 monthly subscription fee apply.
Total comfort now with Carrier Cool Cash rebates. Call Wilman Heating and Air Conditioning to learn how an efficient home comfort system by Carrier can let you create a healthy, more comfortable indoor environment. With up to $1,700 in Carrier Cool Cash rebates or special financing, explore what's possible with Carrier. Incentives will vary. Ask Wilman for details. Turn to the experts. Wellman Heating and Air Conditioning, your factory authorized dealer for Carrier products. Visit wellmanheating.com.
Let this sink in. 85% of veterans who died by suicide had low testosterone. The VA has confirmed hormone therapy can make a difference. It cuts suicide rates in half. Having low testosterone can take your sleep, your energy, your drive. It wears you down slowly until you don't feel like yourself anymore. At Limitless Male, we make it simple. No pressure, just answers. Get your levels checked. LimitlessMale.com.
I'm Saniqua Martin Green, and when my mother was diagnosed with cancer, our world changed forever. This experience made me so passionate about spreading awareness of treatment options, including clinical trials. I'm joining Stand Up to Cancer to get information to those who have been diagnosed with cancer and their loved ones. Clinical trials introduce new hope for patients, providing access to cutting-edge new treatments. Talk to your doctor to see if a clinical trial may be the best choice for you or a loved one. To learn more, visit standuptocancer.org/clinical trials today.
Business owners everywhere are raving about ZipRecruiter's new feature, Zip Intro, which does the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates to meet with you as soon as the next day. So we decided to call up some of these employers and hear their stories. Today, we're on the phone with Pilates studio owner Crystal M. Harris. Crystal, how has Zip Intro helped you hire?
Well, I was opening a Pilates studio in McDonough, Georgia, and I needed to staff up quickly. Zip Intro did the work for me. It helped me find enthusiastic candidates who matched my qualifications perfectly.
That's great.
Yeah, I had my Zip Intro session on Tuesday, did all the interviews by Thursday, sent out the offers on Friday, and they started on Monday. Because Zip Intro did most of the work, I saved so much time.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, you can try Zip Intro for free right now at ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
We're back with more. It's the Average Joe Sports Show with Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it on the Average Joe Sports Show. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome back Mr. Mike Schaefer with Husker 24/7 Sports. Find him on Twitter at Mike J. Schaefer in his home office. Schaefer, it's May. Have you dusted the clubs off at all, man?
I've played a few times so far this year. I'm on it's been about 2 weeks since I think the last time I was able to get out and play. I'm scheduled at least once next week, hoping to get some more. And if it was everything I was doing was a scramble and all I had to do is get off the tee box, I'd be very helpful right now. It's every subsequent shot that isn't the tee box that is just bordering on disaster. Right up until you're about a foot away from the hole, and I still managed to miss those too. So,
well, just
where we're at.
Keep working.
Yeah. That's the problem. I want to golf like I'm Scotty Scheffler, and I put absolutely no time in my game whatsoever. So I've learned that I just can't really complain, and I'm just happy to be out golfing instead of whatever it is that I'm probably should be doing in that moment.
That's the way to approach it.
Do you ever see people that are way too good at golf and you just sit there and be like, man, your wife and kids probably hate you? Like,
I mean, my cohort, Michael Bruns, can play like once a year, go shoot like a 79 and then put the clubs away for the rest of the year. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm over here. I'm going to play like 25, 30 times this summer. If I break 90, I'm going to be pretty pumped about it. But you over there with your 79 once a year, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks, Bruns.
Truth be told, R.I.P. Yankee Hill, the last time we all played, Bruns was throwing darts and just was all good with it. And
I missed that course. I really missed that course. That was one of my favorite local spots here when that was up and running. But
I loved it.
As it is, we got to find another time to get out. I think three of us went and played Hidden Valley a couple years ago.
We did.
In October. Really managed to lose about like 35 golf balls under the leaves out there. But
I have improved significantly since that day, let it be known.
Well, it's not about even level of play. Schaefer is right. The old hidden golf ball was alive and well with
not our fault.
The leaves. Yeah, you just drop one and play OJ golf and hit the second shot. It's okay. Schaefer, let's get into some football. Talk a little Nebraska here, and wanted to kind of gauge your takeaways from the spring, bud, and the optimism level that's also being tempered with that quiet confidence. There's not a ton of hype with Nebraska, although there are some that have the big red and some way too early preseason top 25s. As you look at the roster and the talent upgrade that we see on paper, and you got to see up close with a few of the open practices, what do you think? What do you think moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have the opportunity to have a pretty interesting season ahead. It just becomes a question of, are they able to build upon some things from last year? Can some new guys step into roles and have success early in their career? And do you get a jump from Dylan Raiola? I mean, I think that maybe is the biggest one out of all of them, because he's a better quarterback. Not that he wasn't. I think we probably don't give him enough credit for what he went through as a true freshman last year. That was not easy. And here's how we know it isn't easy. Very few quarterbacks are able to do what he did, to come in out of high school and start for a Power 4 team. Nobody other than him did it for every game last year. Nobody did it in all of 2023. To have a power conference quarterback that's a true freshman is a pretty rare accomplishment. And so that in itself was good. But now it's, can he take big, not just a little step forward? Can he take a large step forward with Dana Holgorsen here in tow for the entire offseason, with Nebraska's renewed commitment to getting some wide receiver help for him that maybe better fits what Holgorsen wants, with the idea that Emmett Johnson might be more heavily involved and can take some of the load off of Dylan Raiola because he can be a playmaker that you just turn around and give the ball to, or that you can throw too short out of the backfield. You don't have to sit there and scan the field. So I think there's a lot in place. I think the offensive line, I feel better about it than I did at the start of the spring, and I've kind of talked myself into that there might be a jump for that group just from what we've heard about how the spring went for them. But overall, for me, a lot of it is just going to be how does that defense looks in the transition with its staff? Where is the defensive line relative to having Nash Hutmaker and Ty Robinson, Jamari Butler, MJ Sherman? I mean, those four guys gave you a lot of experience and, various points of last season, certainly in 2023, that defensive line controlled things for Nebraska. So I just think when you size up what the Huskers are, there's certain things that look better on paper. There's certain things that maybe they take a step back. And then how are they in the margins? Are they better on special teams? Are they better with turnovers and takeaways? Is Matt Rule better in close games? I mean, all of that can add up. This was a team last year that I thought should have been a 9-win team. They gave away at least 2, if not 3 games a year ago. And I look at it this year, and it's hard for me to get to the same level of enthusiasm as to where I was at last year. And there's other people that think they have a better team. So there's a lot that's just unknown about this Nebraska team. But I think the more they can just kind of sneak up and play through it and catch people by surprise, the better off they would be than if they're just appearing as everybody's dark horse, which is usually what happens around this time of year.
You mentioned the jump in year 2 from Raiola. Do we just, in this state, casually discuss that too much? I mean, the term sophomore slump is a thing for a reason. You see it a lot. I mean, some of us had it from an academic side, others on the sports side of things. Sophomore slump is a term for a reason. Do we just casually throw around, well, the jump's going to come in year 2 from Raiola too much?
That's an entirely fair assessment because we saw it play out with Adrian Martinez. I think the difference for me in these two situations is that Nebraska, I think, has done a better job of surrounding Dylan Raiola with more help on the offensive side of the ball. Whereas if you go back to 2019, it was Adrian's going to be Adrian, and then hopefully Wan'Dale Robinson, Maurice Washington, and J.D. Spielman are enough to get through. Because outside of that, there's a lot of question marks about what they had offensively, certainly without Stanley Morgan. And so I think some of it is I feel better about what Dylan Raiola has around him. I like what I've heard in terms of how he's attacked the offseason. I think that he can make jumps as a player. That doesn't mean he's going to look a whole lot different physically, or that the ball's going to come out differently, or that he's going to have huge statistical gains. It could just be as simple as recognizing situational coverage, recognizing how to get out of a bad call that leaves you vulnerable. I mean, there's just little things in there that it doesn't have to be he's going to go from 13 touchdowns to 25. Could he just cut down turnovers and only throw 15 touchdowns? Would that be a big jump? So I think there's different ways to get there that aren't necessarily expectation that he has a big statistical season, if that makes sense. I would be surprised if he regresses, and I would be surprised if he's the same player that we saw last season.
There's really 2 directions, right? Better or worse. And you need that jump, Schaefer, and you need that jump in November, right? You need to be a better November football team. And that has been something that's plagued Nebraska for a lot of years. And do you think they'll be better ready for November when it comes to just better talent? Or is it going to be that experience factor we've also hit on? I mean, the talent and experience can kind of mesh together. But if you just got a better dude lined up across from the other guy, it can go your way.
Yeah, I November is going to be paramount again for Nebraska, and it has been. And you said that, and I was trying to think when the last time they won 2 games in the same month of November was, discounting 2020, which you had a weird schedule and things played out
maybe
differently there.
Or no, they faded in 16.
It might be 2016. I was trying to think if they did it in 2018, where they had Michigan State, and then was Illinois also in November that month as well. That might have been their last like 500 month in November, which should tell you as much as Nebraska struggles as they've had as anything. And Matt Rule himself is 1-7 in the month of November, and in that 1-7, a whole handful of woulda, coulda, shoulda. And so so much of it for me is before we even get to November, we're going to find out, has Nebraska made strides under Mike Eckler on special teams? Has Nebraska made strides with Matt Rule in terms of in-game management? Does he have a better feel for how he wants to attack Big Ten teams in the fourth quarter? Do we know, is this a team that's going to play through its offense? Or are they going to try to let the defense win the day like they did in 2023 and perpetually was unable to do so? So much of the discussion about the end of the year, we're going to have a better feel for, but there is no substitute for just going out and doing it. Mm-hmm. And some of my hesitation for Nebraska is it's hard. It's like a chicken and the egg factor. It's hard to have confidence that you can do something if you never do it. So it's hard to imagine Nebraska is going to be confident the first time that they have to go 75 yards and go score in the fourth quarter to win a football game, when there are countless examples of them being unable to do so. And yet at the same time, how do you build confidence unless you go do it? Mm-hmm. So it's, a lot of this team, it sounds like you're going to stock answer, and I think you're going to hear it from your guests all summer going into the fall. But I just think there's a lot we don't know about where they are in terms of, can they go do some of the small stuff that has eluded them for years? Can they make winning plays? Can they make winning decisions? Will they have winning decisions made by coaches on the sideline? I mean, the answer to that has been no so often over the last decade that it's hard to say with a straight face that it's just going to happen this year because they've got a better collection of talent and Matt Rule likes his staff. It might happen, but I think we need visible evidence before we really know. And you look at those games that they're going to play in November, teams that you're going to get. You lost to UCLA last year. It's not like they're just going to go into the Rose Bowl and they're just going to be a better team for it. Then you go on the road to Penn State. I believe you got both Wisconsin and Iowa.
USC and Iowa.
USC and Iowa. So, yeah, Wisconsin maybe not even on the schedule this year. I don't have the schedule committed to memory. That's on me, so I apologize for that. Good. But, yeah, you have USC, and then you get Iowa again. And so, these are all games that are very likely to be close and late, and that has not been where Nebraska has been successful in recent years.
Mike Schaefer with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show, and we'll do a little overtime with Schaefer. Danny Burke, kind enough to accommodate us at 5:50 for some of Burke's best bets, some NBA, some NHL with Danny Burke. Pride of Chicago coming up. And we'll hear from Danny Burke, but more with Schaefer, more thoughts on Nebraska. We'll get some recruiting intel. That's on the way as well from Mike Schaefer at Mike J. Schaefer. And, of course, catch him with Husker 24/7 Sports. Schaefer, the bearded guru, continues with us here on the Average Joes.
Hi, this is Rich Ray, voice of the Lincoln Salt Dogs. Catch all the exciting action as the Salt Dogs begin the season at Kansas City versus the Monarchs on Friday. Airtime begins at 6:05.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
I tried to hide my cigarette smoking. Then I was rushed into emergency surgery to repair the damage smoking did to my heart. It shocked everyone because they thought I was healthy. Yet because I smoked, I had a severe heart condition that nearly killed me. My tip is, you may be able to hide your smoking from the world, but you can't hide from the damage smoking does to your body.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I got cramps, and it's real bad.
Rodney Carrington.
Not the kind you eat at Joe's, but the kind that make your girlfriend mad.
Saturday, May 10th at the Rococo Theater.
Get tickets at RococoTheater.com. Produced by Outback presents Rodney Carrington.
If you ain't got any teeth, you're not allowed to hang out with people with teeth. Because people with teeth, quite frankly, can't take you serious. The whole time you're talking, all you think about is, what happened to your damn teeth?
Lies. Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-894-7722. That's 800-894-7722. Again, 800-894-7722.
Surprise! Your table saw broke. Also, the warranty expired weeks ago, so you need to pay for a new one out of pocket.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Oh, and the replacement part you ordered doesn't fit, so it's completely useless. What a waste.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
KFOR is now available in high-definition stereo.
This is the good stuff.
Listen in your HD radio-equipped vehicle.
We're back with more. It's the Average Joe Sports Show with Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Mike Schaefer with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show. A little OT with Schaefer. Schaefer, on the recruiting front, Nebraska doing a lot of in-home visits this week. I know Nebraska has been able to get some peer recruiting as well from Trey Taylor, and I know the Huskers are also looking at some couple of offensive tackles. You've been tracking that with Husker 24/7 Sports for a great long while at an amazingly high level. And how are you feeling about Nebraska's reception and the guys they're targeting? It looks like they're going head-to-head against some other heavyweights, brand-wise and, of course, win-wise when it comes to competing for those commitments or for sure visits.
Yeah, I think we can kind of see that Nebraska has a core group of guys that they're really focused in on with this 2026 class. I don't think it's going to be a big class. I would look for the numbers somewhere between 12 to 15 players. They've got 4 committed now. We'll see if you're able to hold on to TJ Brana, the defensive back down in Florida. We'll see what happens with Devon Bonwell-Witt, who's going to come work out at camp. He had a really bad leg injury this past year, and so I think he's got to kind of show out at camp to protect that spot that he has as well. And then you have Dayton Raiola and you have J.H. Reynolds who just committed. So you have 4 commitments, but at times it might feel like 2. And then they want to go get, a tight end, whether it's Camden Jensen out of Colorado or Luke Sorensen out of Anaheim or Lincoln Watkins out of Michigan. And so you want an offensive tackle, Claude Mpuma from Chicago, Kevin Obit from Idaho. I mean, so Rex Waterman from Arizona. And they visited all of these guys here in the last 10 days or so, and they've made a point as to who some of these important people are. EJ Barthel was just at Zeppin Walker's house earlier today. That's a running back out of Kansas City. I think Nebraska has a great chance with him. We know that Phil Simpson's been down in the Miami area. He was at Miami Southridge yesterday where he was visiting Ryan Merritt and Cameron Wilson, 2 guys I expect to visit on June 6th for an official visit weekend. Merritt, interior offensive lineman. Cam Wilson committed to Syracuse, but came out to Nebraska in April, loved his visit. Looks like he wants to get back on campus June 6th, same weekend as his teammate there. So, they've had coaches all over, as you mentioned, and they've really zeroed in on some of these guys. It's been slow, but I think it can be slow because they know it's not going to be a big year. And I think the reason it's not going to be a big year, you don't have a lot of outgoing seniors. You're leaving spots for your transfer portal guys. And here's the other big one, and Matt Rule said as much early in March, if you were paying attention. they don't know what is going to happen with the settlements, with all of this stuff. They didn't want to have to go back on their word. I think they've been extremely cautious about talking NIL with high school players because they don't want to get too far down that road and then have to reverse course or whatever. And they don't want to pay too much for a guy who hasn't done anything either relative to using it for somebody in the transfer portal or protecting your own roster. So all of that being said, it's a really weird year in the 2026 recruiting cycle, but I think it's starting to normalize, and they're going to start with a visit here in a week with Luke Sorensen, the tight end from California, and then it's going to continue in the month of June, and they're going to have camps, and things are going to start to normalize and feel a little bit more like a recruiting season generally does. But it's been slow and sort of unique here so far in this run.
Schaefer, how would you spend the money, my friend? Say you get pulled into the GM's office and here's blank checks and, Coors Original Banquet and golf trips are out the window. How would you spend the money on talent acquisition? Would it be the one more year fund a la Michigan to keep guys that you like on your roster? Is that priority one? Would you go portal over high school? What would you prioritize?
I think you got to have a mixture of all things. A big part of me thinks that you have to have money set aside, whether it's portal or high school, for offensive linemen. That has to be the biggest thing that you go after year in and year out. We know with Nebraska that they efforted very hard, multiple different offensive linemen before ending up with Elijah Pritchett and Rocco Spindler. We know that they paid more for those two guys than they anticipated. We know that they were willing to pay more for other linemen who got even more money at other programs in some cases. So, the money has to be there for the offensive line. You're in a very good spot quarterback-wise, so you don't have to worry about that as much. So that frees you up to be able to spend to protect him up front, to move defensive linemen. So I would focus heavily on the trenches, a combination of finding some guys in the portal, finding some guys at the high school level, get the best linemen that you can, and then you just kind of build from there. I mean, if you build up front, the rest of your football team is going to be better for it. And so once you're done on the offensive side of the ball, then you got to go find those difference makers on the defensive line, because every team you watched in the college football playoff, they were good up front if they were winning the game. And so I just think that's where Matt Rule wants to build anyways. I think that's where you're going to put a lot of your effort. You're going to have some one-off money for the best wide receiver you can get out of the portal every year. I think that's a game Nebraska is going to play. I don't know that it's always going to be a one-year guy, but they've had some pretty good success with it. I mean, you look at Samari Toure, Trey Palmer, even last year, Isaiah Nair and Jamal Banks weren't as good as what you ultimately would have hoped, but they were helpful pieces for you. I expect the same with Isaiah Hunter, who you're hoping to have for several years. And then, of course, Dane Key, who one good year, and you're hoping to hear his name called on at least day 3 in the NFL draft.
It's Mike Schaefer with us here, the Average Joe Sports Show. And Mike, we had Trey Taylor posting yesterday on his Twitter account, X account, whatever you want to call it, about his pure.
You can call it Twitter. I don't call it X. Nobody needs to call it X.
Thank you. On his Twitter, then about.
You have my permission on that one.
Pure recruiting efforts, saying, hey, Nebraska's not going to be for everybody, but everybody's got to check it out. Obviously, Nebraska's not the only team going into Chicago, with the Vatican today going in there as well, getting their top product out of
You
Chicago.
think there was a hat ceremony? What hats do you think were on the table for Pope Leo? You think there was a pirate hat, a chef hat, and a Pope hat? And then he reached out and put that one.
Tosses the pirate hat.
Well, you need the Kanglo hat from Samuel L. Jackson as part of the repertoire too.
That might have too much drip, as they say.
But to finish my question here, any other guys in Chicago that a Nebraska fan should keep an eye on with Trey Taylor's connections there?
Yeah, I mean, Claude Mpuma is from the similar area as well. He's an offensive lineman here in 2026. He's a fascinating guy. He's a former basketball player that's just learning to play on the offensive line, but he's going to visit Nebraska on June 20th. I would bet you that Trey Taylor is going to be at Nebraska on June 20th, not just because of Claude, but because that's one of their biggest visit weekends that they have scheduled. And so just like, and obviously he's not here anymore, but Daniel Kalen was a fixture at these things. I know that it's 7 hours away, but I just think the Taylors are going to be really involved in the month of June here. And so that's a name. Devarius Harrington, I believe, is at Carmel Catholic as well, a teammate of Trey Taylor's. It's 4-star defensive back. Nebraska's offered 8 guys in Illinois in 2027. And they've had a number of Illinois visitors come out. And so that's just his home state. But he's going to be involved. Trey is the kind of guy that sees Dzefan Walker have E.J. Barthel in his house. And he's going to be in his DM saying, hey, I committed to Nebraska. Would love to have the opportunity to play with you. What do you think? How do you think our backfield would look if it's me, you back there in 2027? Yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's just sort of who he is. So pick a player, and he's probably going to find some way to be involved in it. That's one of the biggest reasons why he committed as early as he did. And it's one of the things that Nebraska is going to get here with a high-level quarterback prospect that it didn't get out of the Dylan Raiola experience when he flipped late in December, and most people were already, locked into what they were going to do at that point.
Mike Schaefer with us, Husker 24/7 Sports, at Mike J. Schaefer on Twitter. Schaefer will dust the clubs off soon. We'll have a banquet beer, and we'll talk again, man.
All of this sounds good. Thanks for having me on today.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-894-7722. That's 800-894-7722. Again, 800-894-7722.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-375-8936. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-375-8936, 800-375-8936, 800-375-8936.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop. Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop. A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Does your home have damage from the latest round of storms? This is Matt Berkey, co-owner of Golden Rule Contractors. If you have storm damage, let Golden Rule Contractors guide you through the process of getting a new roof with honesty and integrity. We'll treat your home like we treat our own. If you have storm damage, give us a call for a free estimate at 402-473.
The Windy City, famous for hot dogs, deep dish pizza, and Danny Burke. The pride of Chicago is dropping dimes. It's Burke's Best Bets on the Average Joe Sports Show.
Danny Burke with us to wind down a Thursday on the Average Joe Sports Show at Danny Burke 5. On Twitter at Stokastic and Odd Shopper, where you can find his work. Danny, you had Robert Francis, didn't you? You had the Pope from Chicago as the dark horse, because you could bet on it. I'm sure you nailed it.
Schmitty, it was a lock, so at least a little bit of my bias came into play, and it came to fruition for once, right? When you're betting on Chicago teams and people and now Popes, everything doesn't hit except when you're betting on the Pope. So finally the hometown bet comes through.
Well, Robert Francis Prevost becomes Pope Leo.
How do you think the Catholic Church would feel about you betting on the next pope?
It was out there. There were people.
I know there are people out there, but how would the church feel about that? I don't know.
As long as you kick your 10%, they're happy. I mean, right? In this case, maybe 20%.
Yeah.
Danny, you had the overs, didn't you, with the Thunder last night? They were incredible. 87 first half points, my friend.
I mean, it's insane. I wish I took the overs. I honestly stayed away from that game. And the only angle I wanted to go was, like most people, I'm sure, just waiting for a better number in game with the Thunder, but they never gave you that chance. And this is a testament to what this team is and why you can see a fairly clear difference right now between the two favorites, who are the Thunder and the Celtics, right? Celtics didn't respond. The Thunder did. The Thunder are incredibly deep. They have this depth. Denver's been playing a little above their heads right now, but hey, I mean, again, Oklahoma City's been the best team all year, and I think last night's game is an indictment of that, and it doesn't change my mind of anything of me thinking they are the best team, but my mind has certainly been altered from thinking the Celtics were going to be the opponent they face. Yeah, a little dicey there in the Eastern Conference, but yeah, Oklahoma City is looking fantastic, that's for sure.
Another team looking fantastic, even despite the fact they don't have Steph. It was a great game one performance from the Warriors. They got game 2 against the T-Wolves tonight. Anything you like there?
I just got some props here. I'll rattle off a few, Elijah. I got Draymond Green over 4.5 assists. Kevon Looney over 4.5 rebounds. And then one that you got to lay a little bit for, but I like Buddy Hield under 3.5 3-pointers. I mean, the dude's been playing out of his shoes the past couple of games. And you would think that that would spike, and it certainly could with the absence of Steph Curry, but I still think it's just a little bit too high based on that recency bias. So that's what I like in terms of the props. Naturally, I expect the Timberwolves to bounce back, but there's no way I'm looking to lay double digits. Sure, they could do similarly to what the Thunder did because of with Steph being out, and now you're prepared for it, and you already played a while with them. Like, you have that fallen star theory where, you know, you lose your top player, and then you go out and win that game. So I think that kind of already applied to the Warriors last game because he went out early, and now reality will set with them. And yeah, it may be slow at first, but the Timberwolves probably find a way to figure this one out and get on cruise control later. But again, I don't really want to sweat out the double-digit odds.
Burke's best bets. Danny Burke with us. Danny, a thought on the Cavs v. Indy, about a minute here.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. That 2-0, is there panic with Cleveland, or do you think they can rebound?
I actually, you know, it's tough. I mean, I don't think you have to panic. It certainly revolves around how healthy they're going to be. But if we can assume the starters will be back, I think it's going to be a relatively solid buy low spot with Cleveland here. And all the credit in the world to what Indiana's done. But yeah, if we're getting the Cavs, I see like 2.5. And again, assuming they're healthy, I would take a stab at Cleveland to bounce back.
All right. Daddy, enjoy Chicago. Enjoy the new Pope, my friend, and we'll holler next week.
Yeah, you bet, guys. Take care.
Good stuff from Danny Burke. We're back tomorrow at 4 with the Average Joes. Thanks for tuning in.